I think AI is really going to change things immensely. And so what's going to end up happening is if your devs aren't using AI, basically your devs may not be devs for much longer. Uh, and so it is a game changer.
That spark of innovation, it's just waiting for the perfect combination of tools and talent to bring it to life. Welcome to Pitch, Build, Scale. I'm your host, Chris Fanchi, a recovering startup founder, veteran SaaS marketer, turned dev tech enthusiast and growth specialist. Each episode, we connect with the builders, the visionaries, and the problem solvers who are redefining what's possible with today's technology and pioneering the websites, apps, and software products of tomorrow. These are the conversations that transform how we build, how we sell, and how we scale technology businesses in a world where the tech evolves by the minute. Ready to stay ahead of the curve? This is Pitch, Build, Scale.
Hello and welcome to today's episode. We have a very exciting guest. For those of you just joining the podcast, we are Big North Marketing and specialize in helping dev shops and SaaS companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your SaaS or dev business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. We're really excited to have today's guest, Joel Garcia, CEO of Allcode, an AWS Advanced Consulting Partner known for crafting cutting-edge cloud, mobile, and big data applications that help businesses enhance efficiency, scalability, and growth. Joel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So I always like to start off with learning a little bit about your background. What first got you into technology?
I'm originally from UIUC. So I grew up in Urbana-Champaign, where the University of Illinois is. My parents were both professors, and I was introduced to it probably in fourth or fifth grade when I was invited to Plato. So Plato was kind of predates the internet. It was the internal mechanism that the University of Illinois had to communicate with others. And so we used to go and we used to play this game called Avatar. And it was pretty cool. So I did that, and then in high school, I went to Urbana University Laboratory High School, and so that school we actually had a computer programming class, and this is way back in sort of the Stone Ages. So did that, then went to college and focused on math, and then came out to the Bay Area and initially landed a job doing risk assessments for earthquakes and hurricanes, which turned out to be more software development than I thought. So that's how I got started.
So where did your journey take you from there, and how did you end up at Allcode?
Sure. So I joined another company called Oasis, Open Architectural Clinical Information Systems. We were building a order entry system for Stanford. I did that for a little while. That actually went public, and then that got gobbled up by SAIC, which is ginormous. Then left that, did another startup downtown San Francisco called Embarcadero Technologies. They turned out to be the number one performing IPO of 2000, them and Krispy Kreme. Did that for a little while, made a little bit of money, then went to Symantec and realized I didn't want to work in a large enterprise. So Symantec, I was on 4 different projects in 2 years. I was brought in to build a database security product. We were going to profile the TNS packet layer going into Oracle to build an AV for databases. That got killed within a month. Then I did HIDS, host intrusion detection. That got killed within 6 months. Then I did SESA, semantic enterprise security architecture. That got killed in 6 months. And then I did SIM, semantic security information management. And then I'd seen enough. So then I just started doing the startup thing. So I joined a company by the name of Advantage. We were doing clinical quality and affordability metrics for providers, basically grading doctors. That got funded by a consortium of Blues, and then actually got gobbled up eventually by IMS Health, which is a billion-dollar health conglomerate. Did another one called LiveVox. We basically had a hosted call center solution, primarily focused on debt. And then that one eventually got gobbled up by private equity and then taken public by a SPAC. When I was at LiveVox, I had opened these remote dev shops. And then subsequently, I just kind of took those and eventually started Allcode.
So had you always wanted to be an entrepreneur, or is that something that came along later in life?
No, so in seeing the Embarcadero guys, so the Embarcadero guys had the number one performing IPO in 2000 without taking any VC. So it's just like, oh, I can do that. And so it was more of just the San Francisco entrepreneurial thing that just kind of sucks you in. And then you start to realize, well, I'm capable of doing that. So why wouldn't I try to do my own thing? Right.
Yeah, sure. So what was the pain point or problem that you saw that you decided to build Allcode to solve?
What it was is sort of after doing LiveVox, I did another startup with the founder from Embarcadero that failed. And then what we started to realize, I started getting all these CTO gigs with kind of MBAs from Ivy League schools, and they didn't really know what they were doing. So I started to realize that maybe I should turn those people into my clients. So
Okay,
that's,
so
that's
talk a little bit about your solution. What is Allcode doing for these people now?
Sure. So for a while, we did a bunch of rent to CTO services plus dev teams. So we had a number of startups in the Bay Area that didn't really know how to build a dev team, didn't really know how to sell a project. So one of them that we did was these guys called Consejo Sanyo that ended up raising about $25 million from Salesforce and Amazon. I was their initial CTO, and then we helped them during the fundraising process, built out their initial version of their product. And then recently they got gobbled up by a company by the name of Ground Game Health. So kind of the rent a CTO plus dev services. And then we started to gravitate more and more towards AWS. I mean, we're building everyone on AWS anyways, right? So it was just like, we should probably just become a partner and see what that path looks like. And then when we became a partner, we realized there are funding opportunities and credit opportunities and all sorts of things that we weren't even familiar with because I'm more of a dev to begin with. So the whole
Hmm.
marketing and all that stuff was still relatively new to us.
So who are your top clients or ideal clients today?
Oh, probably I would say SMBs and startups. People who are looking to migrate to the cloud or modernize in the cloud or are having difficulty scaling out their engineering. So we've got good experience. I've got guys who've been working for me for 10 to 15 years. We have people who know how to solve complicated problems in the cloud. So we get a lot of migration deals, a lot of modernization deals, a number of situations where people need to do cost savings on AWS. AWS, a lot of the cloud platforms, they don't make it easy to manage the licensing or the subscriptions. So we've got good experience in terms of provisioning reserved instances or setting up custom savings plans to save you money.
Okay. Are there specific industries that you tend to work with more than others, or is it just the
Yeah, so
size of the
we've
business?
gravitated more towards healthcare and fintech, probably due to my background with MedVantage doing the clinical quality and affordability metrics, and then LiveVox being in collections. Probably mostly because those are where our contacts are. But we've done all sorts of things. We recently started doing stuff with the city. So yeah, healthcare and fintech.
So how large is your organization today?
About 65 people. So we've
Wow.
got people in San Francisco, we have people in Seattle, in South America, in France, and in India.
Okay. So is your business more driven towards partnerships or one-off projects? What does the mix look like?
Yeah, actually, it's more partnerships. So what we end up doing is typically we'll get in, we'll figure out what's going on, and then we will partner with the client and then either do like their DevOps or do manage their POS or build out custom software. So we have one client that we've been working with for years. They wanted a mobile app. We built out their backend infrastructure. Then we built out the mobile app, put them into the stores, and then they just keep throwing us new work.
Hmm. Okay. So how you've been around software for a long time,
Yep,
all your life, pretty much, sounds like.
pretty
What
much.
have you seen in terms of the changes in the landscape, and how has the most recent shifts that we're seeing with AI, how has that compared to what you've seen in the past?
It's pretty much is groundbreaking. So initially when I started and we were doing the risk assessment for earthquakes and hurricanes, what we'd end up doing is there's this back end that the USGS actually produces called the Tiger files. So we took those Tiger files, we rendered them on a map, and then we would plot hurricane paths or fault lines on it. And so when we were doing this, it dawned on us, well, maybe we should build out a mapping app. And then, 4 or 5 years later, as Google Maps comes out, right? And then you've got mobile. But I think AI is really going to change things immensely. And so what's going to end up happening is if your devs aren't using AI, basically your devs may not be devs for much longer. Uh, and so it is a game changer. So even recently, so we have a separate we have a separate software company that delivers a SaaS solution called Cloud Contact AI, which is similar to what we had at LiveVox, but focuses mostly on SMS and email. And so we started using this tool by Amazon called Amazon Q Developer. It's no different than Copilot, no different than ChatGPT or Claude, but it does have better integration, I would be willing to say, with AWS. So one of the things I've been trying to get our devs to do for the longest time is build out a set of starter libraries, by basically client SDKs, Go, PHP, Ruby, Python, you name it, so that people don't have to manually code to hit the REST APIs that we expose. So I went out with the Q developer and basically in 2 hours, I was able to do what would have taken me 2 months to get done. Right.
Wow.
And so what we're seeing is that particularly with integrations with APIs, it's a complete game changer. Now, what it doesn't do is if you don't know what you're doing, you can completely screw yourself up. And the next thing you know, you can't get out of it. Right. And so what's going to happen is the more senior people, the people who know what they're doing are able to move much, much quicker. And so from that standpoint, I believe it's a complete game changer. What's going to be problematic is for the young kids who don't necessarily know how things work, who get addicted to the AI, they may not be able to troubleshoot or problem solve, but that's just, that's just going to be problematic. But for those seasoned people who've been doing this for a little while, it's mind blowing, right?
Mhm.
And in a way, it's kind of scaffolding. So, back in the day, if you were doing Ruby and you wanted to build out like an MVC type model, it would build out the scaffolding and you'd go. But in this new situation, you can build out the scaffolding and then you can continue to communicate with it to develop more and more code. Now, what can happen is you can get yourself into a situation where you don't know exactly what the AI has done and it won't compile and it won't build. And then you just git stash it and try again. Right? It's basically what ends up happening. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
complete game changer. So it's no different than the horse and buggy and the car. It's just going to change the way everything gets done.
Yeah, I've heard it compared to like a junior developer, essentially. It's
Yep.
coming in, it's very eager to help, sometimes over eager to help, right?
Yep.
And does things that you didn't necessarily ask it to do because it doesn't really see the big picture.
No, no, it doesn't see it at all. So it's one of those things where we had it build out like a Shopify backend application that was supposed to send SMS messages when someone had left something in the cart for 24 hours and they hadn't taken any action. And so with our Cloud Contact AI product, we've got this little REST API and we've got some helper libraries that should make it easy. But what ended up happening in this particular situation is that it made a mess out of the React. It made a mess out of the Shopify integration. And so you can't just give it to a junior dev and have them figure out what it is. It's just not possible. So where we've done really well with it is simple integrations with one API. It can go in and literally spit everything out. And then you can ask it, I want to build it so that you have GitHub Actions. You can ask it, so I want automated test cases. So for kind of integrating with one API endpoint, it does a really nice job
Yeah. Are you using it directly to build things for clients?
daily. Oh yeah. I mean, you have to, it's one of those, you adapt or you die, right? So it's just, you have to be using it, right? And so is, it's just kind of a no-brainer.
How are you seeing customers or competitors even shifting their expectations around things like delivery speed and cost and capabilities as a result of AI?
It really depends upon the client, right? So some people will get it. We get a lot of people who come in who are non-technical founders. And so we try to be upfront and honest with them, but there is the possibility for abuse. There's no doubt. Because if you're non-tech and you want a web application or you want a mobile app, back in the day, someone would quote you X amount of money. But if it's just a CRUD app, like a create, replace, update, delete app, You may even be able to go up to something like base 44 and literally just build it out and then, you know, sync it with your GitHub and then go in and tweak the little things that you need to tweak, or you may even be able to use base 44. So for the CRUD apps, I think it's a complete game changer.
How often are your clients coming to you with something that's pre-existing, especially a startup? Have they built
Most of
something
them
out
have
already?
something. Yeah, most of them have something. The real question is, do you keep it or do you throw it away? Right. So I mean, we've seen all sorts of horrible things, right? That's really the question. I mean, because you have to, it's like it may make a little bit of money, but there just may be so much technical debt. And we've seen people like try to leverage an ERP for doing a communication platform. We've seen all sorts of crazy stuff. So it really just depends upon what vertical it's targeted towards and what step they made initially.
When you're doing a migration, is that typically coming from an older code base where they're wanting to change the entire code base, or is that more like they just want to modernize things and upgrade their code?
So usually what it is people are running out of a colo. And then within that colo, they're being asked to provision new hardware. And that can be expensive, even if you lease it, right? And so they'll come to us and basically say, we don't want to run out of this colo anymore. We don't have a DR. We don't want to purchase more hardware. We'd like to move it into the cloud. And then we'd like to go on to that utilization billing business model. And so that's really the pitch. Now, there are always questions about security and sort of compliance, but the reality is that AWS and GCP and Azure are going to do a better job with the security and compliance than you're ever going to do with a colo, right? And most people, when you go into the colo, you're just literally trying to get it to work. Because most people don't, if you put the Cisco up and you're doing the routing configure, I mean, the likelihood of it being done correctly, unless you really know what you're doing, is small. And then, you put the switches in and put the machines up and around. It's just, most people don't do that, right? Especially if you're a smaller startup or an SMB, you just don't want to incur those costs. So we find that the people who have gone down that path and then want to move to the cloud, we're a pretty good fit for.
Okay. Are are you usually finding when in those instances that you're having to basically rewrite everything during the migration process?
It depends. Sometimes we're able to use some of the stuff. And so we have a client right now who sends 100 or 500,000 emails a day from this postfix email server that runs in a colo. We're migrating them up to AWS SES in GovCloud. So I think what you find is that, before they would have to go in and put in like hooks for the bounces, the unsubscribes, the failures for the emails that are going out. But now with something like Q, you can literally go up and write that code in like 10 minutes, right? And then deploy it with a CloudFormation template, put in the SNS topics, put in the handling, and then maybe write it to a DynamoDB that you truncate, and so you can just, those things that I'm sure took them a long time to set up, you can literally just move very quickly on. And so usually the client just wants to see throughput and performance. So yeah, it's kind of a game changer there.
So, where do you see AI and some of these technologies going in the near future? Say the next year.
Well, I think they're going to continue to improve, right? And so they'll be able to handle more and more complicated scenarios. One of the things that we're starting to do is trying to get it to import our own GitHub repo so it'll understand our coding styles and the things that we do. So that's kind of on our agenda. But I expect the AIs to become more customized so that right now you've got this notion that it knows what it's been able to suck through the internet. More and more people will start to integrate their own code bases and either set up a RAG-based solution or maybe even fine-tune based upon the assets that you have.
Okay. Transitioning back to kind of all code and where you see things are going as a company, what is a big win that you're chasing over the next 12 months from a company standpoint?
That's a good question. So we've been trying to break into more of the enterprise space. So we are trying to explore making use of AI specifically for some of our clients. So most notably, what we're trying to do is for one client, we're trying to facilitate basically being able to take a form and then generate an AI conversation from the form. So think, if you will, like patient onboarding, right? So you go into the doctor's office, they have an iPad there, and you fill out the form and yada, yada, yada. We're seeing some of our clients want to be able to turn that into a dynamic conversation that takes place solely by uploading the form. That's one. Another is sort of the automation of content, right? So we've got clients that will receive prospectuses for different things that they may want to invest in via an email. We have one situation where the email will come in, we'll take the PDF, we'll strip out the information using the AI. We'll do a little bit of RAG, and then we'll generate JSON of the attributes of the proposal. So more integrations with AI to basically take horrible kind of jobs that were being done before manually to improve the throughput and to automate.
What are you using to automate with AI? Are you using any of the existing services? Are you building
Of
custom?
course. Oh yeah, no, you don't want to build it yourself. Building it yourself can be tedious. So we've done a bit with Bedrock. So Bedrock has a data automation platform, which makes it relatively easy. We've done some with Crew AI, and then obviously a little bit with Azure. So for the most part, we're not fine tuning. We do have some clients that want to do some machine learning with SageMaker so that they can build out their own models. Those clients are usually a little bit more sophisticated. And then we do have some clients that are trying to provision GPUs on AWS so that they can either stitch together different media paths, or we have another one that's looking to do a trading platform based upon financial data.
Okay. So what would a breakout year look like for you at Allcode?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Probably capitalizing on some of these AI deals and bringing them in and launching those SageMaker initiatives. Currently looking at working with the city and state of San Francisco and California, maybe landing a couple of deals there. And then we have our Cloud Contact AI product, maybe bringing on some enterprise clients for that.
Okay. What would you say is the biggest bottleneck standing between you and where you are now and where you want to be?
It always comes down to sales and being able to close deals, right? So we have the resources, we're able to leverage AI, we're able to move quickly. It's really, can you actually close deals?
Are you seeing consistency in your lead generation? Is that
It's actually
something that
picked up.
is
Yeah,
going
it's
well?
picked up. So we've been hustling there. I've been trying to work the AWS channels, been trying to work the city and state channels. We still have quite a pretty good SEO, so we get some inbound leads that way. So we haven't seen a slowdown, if you will. The market's huge. So we're optimistic.
Okay. As CEO, are you deeply involved in the sales process, or is that something that you've
Unfortunately,
offloaded to a sales team at
we're
this point?
trying to offload more of that, but it gets challenging because most of these deals require a technical close. And since they require a technical close, I have to get involved.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've had an incredible journey so far. You've mentioned your goal is to really grow the business into the enterprise space. Hypothetically, if you had a magic wand to fix one thing in the business right now that's either holding you back or slowing you down, what would that one thing be?
I'll bring in a closer, someone who could close more deals quickly. All right, that's easy. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, great. Joel, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on the show. For our listeners that want to learn more about Allcode, where can they go and connect with you and your team?
Yeah, they can go to us at allcode.com or cloudcontactai.com. So either of those URLs, or you can find us on social on LinkedIn or Twitter.
Great. And for everyone else tuning in, thank you so much for listening. As always, please subscribe, leave us a review, and keep pitching, keep building, and keep scaling. Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pitch Build Scale. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.